All right, strategy number 5, talking about effective worship team rehearsals. And this one's a critical one. Nail the essentials first, okay? One of the most dreaded feelings I've had as a worship team leader is to get towards the end of the rehearsal and have this terrible sinking feeling in my gut, realizing that we haven't run through the brand new song yet, or we spent all our time working on a brand new song and there's like 2 or 3 songs we haven't even touched or gone through. It's a bad feeling, and we don't want to do that. We want to value and appreciate people's time and not keep people super late when we can avoid it. So understanding what your essentials are is a really important thing to think about ahead of rehearsal, okay? What songs or parts of songs are going to need extra attention? Usually, there are a few parts to it, maybe the bridge or a super big moment, transitions, tops and tails, all right? So another way of saying the intros and the outros. Those are often the parts that are going to need extra work. So have that in mind, and for me, have them kind of jotted down on something that's handy that you can be referencing as the rehearsal is unfolding, because sometimes the rehearsal will unfold and something that you thought was going to be super quick ends up taking a bit more time, or something that you thought would take a lot of time ends up not taking a lot of time. Having an overview of what your essentials are for that practice is really helpful, engaging when you gotta move on and when you can sit in a moment and spend a bit more time. And part of the evaluating as a leader is going to be essentially figuring out a bare minimum for a song that you have to be comfortable with. If a song like played perfectly is a 5 out of 5, you probably can figure out like a 3 out of 5 where there's no blaring mistakes. We kind of survived a correct pass through the song and it went okay. Like, make sure you've got your bare minimums for every song figured out before you end up working on anything that's extra or additive. A way that a worship leader on the web says, a guy named John Chisholm, he says it this way. He says, "Don't polish the shiny bells and whistles until you have built the rest of the train first," right? And that's a great way of saying it. Just don't spend time on the bells and whistles, the extra stuff, the cool stuff, the new idea that someone might even mention on the night of the rehearsal, stuff like that, until you're sure that the bare mechanics of what needs to happen to get us through the set is going to happen successfully. So that's a super critical one, to make sure that you understand and you're keeping a pulse on as the rehearsal is going through. So not only are there going to be some transitions and musical moments that you'll probably want to spend time on, another critical essential that you have to factor in and rehearse are your spoken moments during any transitions. And Charmaine did another session about transitioning between songs that I'd really encourage you to check out. She's got some great ideas about what to be singing or saying or praying in some of those moments. And you gotta go through that at rehearsal. Sunday morning in the service, it may be the time where it feels more spiritual and more emotional. But that's actually not the time to be figuring it out. That's the time to be executing something that you've worked through with your team at rehearsal. So spending time walking it through and trying it out, saying what exactly you might want to say. And again, this is not to take away the spiritual aspect of those moments. They can be very spiritual and still be planned, still be crafted ahead of time, and then executed and tweaked in the moment as the Holy Spirit's guiding. So those are going to be part of your essentials. You want to do those at your rehearsal, and this is where a stop and start rehearsal strategy is really key. So once you've done your sound check and you've run through your song, like a familiar song that everybody's used to, that was primarily just to kind of make sure everybody's mixes are feeling right and people are loose and comfortable at your rehearsal, stop and start the pieces that you need, right? Don't go through whole sections of the song first, because very often the first couple songs, or maybe there's 2 or 3 or 4 songs on the set that are super familiar for your whole team, and you don't need to spend a bunch of time going through all of them first. Focus on the moments, hit pause, say, yeah, let's take it again from the bridge through to the end of the song, and do that, and then go back, work on any train wrecks, and stop and start and work on the pieces. And then what you'll be able to do is at the end, later portion of your rehearsal, is to actually do a full run through that will really mimic what the Sunday morning or the worship service you're rehearsing for will feel like, right? Because people are now confident in what they're hearing and how they're playing and settled in with each other, and they're confident in some of those tricky little turns or what's going to be happening between songs, some of those moments that are maybe unique for this set that aren't like other times that they've done those songs. You've nailed those, and now you set a full run through into play, and people can actually settle into a worship environment for that, and you don't stop that. You do a bunch of stop and starts ahead of time so that you can do a real uninterrupted flow of that journey of your set list with the whole team. And of course, some stuff is not going to all go perfectly, and that's okay. Keep a chart or a little notepad or something handy that just as you're going through the full run through, you're just able to mark that chart up or jot down a note. Just be like, ooh, yeah, the cuts at the end of that second chorus and the third song we didn't really nail. Just make a quick mention of those on a note, so you can go back just at the end to polish up any of those little bumps, or maybe a bigger train wreck. But ideally, you're setting it up so that that full run through can really give everyone the bigger picture of what that set is going to feel like and how it's going to flow, and they're able to actually worship that set list through with you. Those are the moments that are so key, and so they create an environment for your team to really start fertilizing that ground, start preparing that ground in the spirit realm for something amazing to happen on Sunday. You guys have worshiped through that set together, and then once that's over, if there are any little bumps to kind of go back, just consult your notes or do a quick post run through evaluation with your team and just be just checking in with them. Anybody got any little moments where you didn't know what was going on or want to polish that up on another just quick moment rehearsal? Check in with them on that. So nail the essentials first. That's all that strategy was to say. Nailing the essentials first, that'll give you the chance to actually settle into a full rehearsal. Which leads me to strategy number 6, which is